All rise. Justice of the Appellate Division, 4th Department, the Honorable Gerald J. Whalen presiding.
Thank you. Please be seated.
Segos kana goa sewa gwegon, wakwa nun weradan. A yawans gia gwegons kanon, dat nun zewa de garlide. Mark Youngyats, Mantur de Watsa Nazare. Kanige hagani wakawan Jordan. Kanawage dat nun aquasasni. Aquasasni dat nun ganawage nito nune. Aganiha ganawage. Jite Solorian Niwaganune Aganistaha. Excuse my mispronouncing a few things. Greetings, everyone. Hope you are all at peace. Thank you for all being here. I'm here to show my respect to you for welcoming you here today. I hope everyone is healthy and well. My name is Mark Montour. I am a Mohawk. Ganawage and Akwesasne are my roots. My father is from Ganawage and my mother is from Buffalo. That's a traditional greeting that I've offered today out of respect for you. And as this remarkable event takes place, what we do initially at a gathering such as this, we always start with what's referred to as the Thanksgiving address. And in Ganigeha, it's known as the Hondagarian Dekwan. So it's often called the Haudenosaunee Thanksgiving Address, but translated directly, the name refers to the words spoken before all others. The Haudenosaunee nations, Seneca, Cayuga, Onondaga, Oneida, Mohawk, and Tuscarora, traditionally open and close every important gathering, such as today's event, with a version of these remarks. The address is a form of expressing gratitude for all the gifts around us that we sometimes take for granted. Throughout the address, we will recognize the people in our lives, family members, friends, support staff, the friendly court officers who provide us with security today. We will reference the water, which is life, the sun, the moon, etc., and you'll get the idea as I go forward. And before each stanza, I will explain the rationale for each recital. It's my responsibility to give the address, and I will recite the address in Ganyageha, the Mohawk language. You will notice that in each stanza, I will repeat words at the beginning and end. Here to my left, you will see the address in Ganyageha along with an English translation. You'll notice that each stanza begins with Agwegon Skatni Ji and Dediwatway Nun and Gwatnigura, which means that we let us bring our minds together and give thanks and pay respect to whatever item we're referring to. And we'll end with Antonio Dun Hakne and Gwanigura, so let our minds be that way. So this is a method of not only expressing gratitude, but bringing our minds together today as we prepare for this special event. So today we have gathered, we have been given the duty to live in balance and harmony with each other and all living things. So now we bring our minds together as one and give thanks to each other as people. Now our minds are one. Agwegon Skatniji and Didwatwet Nun and Gwatnigura, dat nun de Tinawalado ne Unkwasuna. Antonio Dun Hakne Ungwanigura. We are all thankful for our mother, the earth, for she gives us all we need for life. She supports our feet as we walk about her. It gives us joy that she continues to care for us as she has from the beginning of time. To our mother, we send greetings and thanks. Now our minds are one. Agwegon Skatniji and Didwatwet Nun and Gwatnigura, dat nun de Tinawalado ne Yetinistaha Owansha. Antonio Dun Hakne Ungwanigura. And we give thanks to all the waters of the world for quenching our thirst and providing us with strength. Water is life. We know its power in many ways. Waterfalls and rain, mists and streams, rivers and oceans. With one mind, we send greetings and thanks to the Spirit of Water, Now our minds are one. Agwe gon skatni jin de wat way noon and what ni gura dat noon de tina walado ne. Gasnikal noon yan jiwan jade. Etonio dun hakne on guani gura. With one mind, we turn to honor and thank all the food plants we harvest from the garden. Since the beginning of time, the grains, vegetables, beans, and berries have helped the people survive. We give special recognition to the three sisters, corn, beans, and squash. Many other living things, too, draw strength from them. We gather all the plants and foods together as one and send them a greeting of thanks. Now our minds are one. Agwegon skatni jin de wat wet noon and guatni gura dat noon de atina walado ne, ohunde suna. Dano nene agwaga wana gawana ne on hekwan. Nene honeste, osaheda, dat noon onun unsala. Etonio dun hakne on guani gura. We now turn to all the medicines and herbs of the world. From the beginning, they were instructed to take away sickness. We are happy they are still among us, those who remember how to use these plants for the healing. With one mind, we send greetings and thanks to the medicines and to the keepers of medicines. Now our minds are one. Agwegon skatni jin de wat wet noon and guatni gura dat noon de tina walado ne onunga suna. Atonio dun hakne on guani gura. We now turn to the insects, like the bees, moths, and butterflies, that are essential for pollinating plants, which is crucial for food, production, and biodiversity. With one mind, we send greetings and thanks to the insects. Now our minds are as one. Agwegon skatni jin de wat wet noon and guatni gura dat noon de tina walado ne ochi nuna suna. Atonio dun hakne on guani gura. We gather our minds together to send greetings and thanks to all the animals in the world, with special recognition to the deer. They have many things to teach us as people. We are honored by them when they give up their lives so we may use their bodies as food for our people. We see them near our homes and in the deep forest. We are glad they are still here, and we hope that it will always be so. Now our minds are as one. Agwegon skatni jin de wat wet noon and guatni gura dat noon de tina walado ne. Gario dasu. Sorry. Danu ne agua gawana gawana ne osko nunden. Atonio dun hakne on guani gura. Now we turn our thoughts to the trees, chief among them the maple. The earth has many families of trees who have their own instructions and uses. Some provide us with shelter and shade, others with fruit, beauty, and other useful things. Many people of the world use a tree as a symbol of peace and strength. With one mind, we greet and thank the tree life. Now our minds are as one. Agwegon skatni jin de wat wet noon and guatni gura dat noon de atina walado ne. Galundo oguna. Dano nene agwa gawana gawana ne awata. Atonio dun hakne on guani gura. We now put our minds together as one and thank all the birds who fly over our heads. The Creator gave them beautiful songs. Each day they remind us to enjoy and appreciate life. The eagle was chosen to be their leader. To all the birds, from the smallest to the largest, we send our joyful greetings and thanks. Now our minds are as one. Agwegon skatni jin de wat wet noon and guatni gura dat noon de tina walado ne oti denaguna. Dano nene agwa gawana gawana ne adonangoa. Atonio dun hakne on guani gura. And we are thankful to the powers we know as the four winds. We hear their voices in the moving air as they refresh us and purify the air we breathe. They help us to bring the change of seasons. From the four directions they come, bringing us messages and giving us strength. With one mind, we send our greetings and thanks to the four winds. Now our minds are as one. Agwegon skatni jin de wat wet noon and guatni gura dat noon de atina walado ne. Gario dasu. No. Mark. Mark, you know that better. Gayeri and Lekawerge. Antonio dun hakne and guanaguru. Sorry about that again. Now we send greetings and thanks to our eldest brother, the sun. Each day, without fail, he travels the sun from east to west, bringing light to a new day. He is the source of all the fires of life. With one mind, we send greetings and thanks to our brother, the sun. Now our minds are as one. Agwegon skatni jin de wat wet noon and guatni gura dat noon. De tiri nuela don ne tiri wajita galakwa. Etonio dun hakne angwanigura. And we turn our minds west to where our grandfathers, the thunder beings, live. With lightning and thundering voices, they bring them with them water that renews life. We are thankful that they keep evil underground. We bring our minds together as one to send greetings and thanks to our grandfathers, the thunderers. Now our minds are as one. Agwego and Scotney G and Diddy Wat White Noon and Guatni Guru, that noon day at Tirwalado name. Yunki Sotoga Ladi Weres. Etonio dun hakne angwani guru. And we put our minds together to give thanks to our grandmother, the moon, who lights the night sky. She is the leader of women all over the world, and she governs the movement of the ocean tides. By her changing face, we measure time, and it is the moon who watches over the arrival of children on earth. With one mind, we send greetings and thanks to our grandmother, the moon. Now our minds are as one. Gwegon Scotney Jean did what white noon and Guatni Guru, that noon de etino walado ne. Geti sota galakwa. Etonio dun hakne angwani guru. And we give thanks to the stars who are spread across the sky like jewelry. We see them at night, helping the moon to light the darkness and bring dew to the gardens and growing things. When we travel at night, they guide us home. With our minds gathered together as one, we send greetings and thanks to the stars. Now our minds are as one. Agwegon Scotney Jean did what wait noon and Guatni Guru, that noon day at Walado name. Yotis Dogalun and Jikalun Ajade. Etonio dun hakne angwani guru. Now we turn our thoughts to the Creator and sends greetings and thanks for all the gifts of creation. Everything we need to live a good life is here on earth. For all the love around us, we gather our minds together and send one of our best words and greetings and thanks to the Creator. Now our minds are as one. Wego and Scotney Jean de what wait noon and Guatni Guru that noon. They tidin well don, they sunko yedison. Etonio dun hakne angwani guru. We have now arrived at the place where we end our words. Of all the things we have named, it is not our intention to leave anything out. If something's forgotten, we leave it to each individual to send greetings and thanks. Now our minds are as one. Ato nunak gari wat kwenise. Nahodin iikari wain dakwa. Do garo tena unge nagunan. Anmo dan ize aze wat kawe negunuma dunzala. Dat nun eto nigwe wan nage. Dat nun onen eto. Now we go. Also, what we do at meetings such as this, or gatherings, we send a land acknowledgement out to acknowledge where we are, who's preceded us, and to acknowledge that. I would like to invite you in acknowledging that we reside in the homelands of indigenous people, more specifically the Seneca Nation, which is an important step in recognizing the history of the original stewards of these lands. Land acknowledgement statements can help to remind us of the history, contributions, and the sacrifices Native people have made. This land in which this program originates, referred to as New York State, is land that has been home to the Haudenosaunee people from time immemorial. We honor their ongoing connections to these lands and waters. Today, the many nations located in these boundaries still fight for recognition and sovereignty. This territory is covered by the Dish with One Spoon Treaty of Peace and Friendship, a pledge to peaceably share and care for the resources around the Great Lakes and throughout North America. It is also covered by the 1794 Treaty of Canandaigua between the United States and the Six Nations Confederacy, which further affirmed Haudenosaunee land rights and sovereignty in the state of New York. Today, this region is still the home to the Haudenosaunee people, and we are grateful for the opportunity to live, work, and share the ideas in this territory. We see you, we hear you, and we respect the right for all Native nations to have sovereignty. We are committed to be better listeners and learners and to amplify Indigenous voices. Now,
If I could, that was the Honorable Mark A. Montour, a member of the St. Regis Mohawk Tribe, an associate judge of the Appellate Division, 4th Department, and the first Native American judge to serve on the New York State courts. And thank you, Justice Montour, for opening today's proceedings. I'd like to now invite forward Nolan Leonard, a descendant of Ely Parker, who will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Please rise.
I pledge allegiance to the
flag
flag of the United States of America
and to the republic for which it stands,
which stands
one nation,
under
under God,
indivisible,
with liberty and justice
justice
for
for
all.
all.
Thank you. Please be seated. Welcome. Welcome to all to this historic occasion to celebrate the admission of Ely Parker to the practice of law in the state of New York. Yes, the day has come. My name is Gerald Whalen. I'm presiding justice of the Appellate Division, 4th Department. We're the court that has the duty and honor, I should say, to oversee the admission of attorneys in the 22 counties of central and western New York, including, of course, here in Buffalo. I'm honored to be joined today by my fellow panel members from the Appellate Division, 4th Department. To my immediate right, the Honorable Stephen Lindley from Rochester, the Honorable Mark Montour, who I just introduced, to my left. He's from Buffalo. The Honorable E. Jeanette Ogden from Buffalo, to my far right. And the Honorable Scott J. Del Conte from Oswego, New York, to my far left. Also present with us this morning and to the right, in the area of the jury box, from the 4th Department, the Honorable Craig D. Hanna. From the Federal Court, Western District, the Honorable Jeremiah McCarthy. Thank you, Judge McCarthy, for being here. The Honorable Chief Judge Christy Walsdorf from the St. Regis Mohawk Tribe. Welcome, Judge. All the way from New York City, the Appellate Division, 1st Department, the Honorable Elizabeth Gonzalez. Welcome, Judge Gonzalez. There, by the way, I travel to New York quite a bit as a part of my duties for the court. And as I mentioned a few minutes ago, every time you invite somebody from New York City to Buffalo, anytime after October 30th, they say, no, not interested. And so Judge Gonzalez has braved her way here today, so thank you so much. From the 8th Judicial District, Acting Supreme Court Justice and Court of Claims Judge, the Honorable Betty Calvo-Torres. Thank you, Judge Torres, for being here. From Cattaraugus County, so he got up a little early this morning to come up and be with us. Acting Supreme Court Justice, the Honorable Ronald Plotz. Judge Plotz, interestingly, told me today that when he was a lawyer, Judge Plotz worked for the law firm that was the successor law firm that you're going to hear about, where Ely Parker read law. And so Judge Plotz became well aware and was well familiar with this history for many years, and he is delighted, and we are honored, sir, to have you here. We're also privileged to be joined this morning by the President of the Seneca Nation of Indians, J. Conrad Seneca, as well as many members of the Parker family, the Seneca Nation, and the Tonawanda Reservation Historical Society. Believe me when I say we are honored to have all of you here for this historic occasion. Next, I would like to thank Justice Montour and court analyst Mackenzie Kanicki, who are responsible for the coordinating of this Native American Heritage Month celebration, and for all of their work bringing awareness and appreciation for Native American history to the court system. Thank you also to the staff members of the Court of Appeals and the 4th Department for their efforts coordinating this important event. We have our tech team up in the balcony up there, making sure that this proceeding is live streamed, so if people want to tune in who can't get here physically, they can do so. So all those watching, welcome, please. Finally, I'd like to thank all of you for being here today as we take the last steps on the long road to correcting a historic injustice by admitting Ely Parker to the New York State Bar. Even a cursory review of his biography will show that Mr. Parker was not only clearly qualified for admission to the bar, but he in fact exemplified the best and highest ideals of the legal profession that the bar represents. Despite his exclusion, Ely Parker served his community, his nation, and this country in a manner that will serve as an inspiration to generations to come. Which, I will stop here for a second, and this may happen as we go forward. People helping me up here, my fellow judge here, Judge Lindley. We also have with us Dean, and I didn't know you were here, my apologies, Dean Todd Brown from UB Law School. Dean Brown, are you here? Welcome, Dean, thank you. My apologies. You will hear about his story and his lasting impact from the distinguished speakers here today, many of whom were instrumental in ensuring that E. Lee Parker's significant accomplishments and contributions were not lost to history. Last night, I had the pleasure of being at the Buffalo Historical Society auditorium, where there was a panel discussion about E. Lee Parker and the history and the history of the process that got us here today. And it was an impressive group of lawyers and legal minds that were on the panel and family members that really brought home this wonderful story. And it's my hope that today, with the speakers you're going to hear from, that you will get a taste of what happened last night, because it was inspirational. So let's begin. First, please join me in welcoming to the podium Melissa Parker Leonard, a descendant of E. Lee Parker, who has worked tirelessly in compiling the application for Mr. Parker's admission to the New York State Bar. Welcome.
Thank you. Good morning. My family's Tonawanda Seneca, and I am E. Lee's great-great-great-grandniece. And it is a profound honor to stand here on behalf of my family and the generations of ancestors whose shoulders have carried our people forward. I have had the privilege to read through many of E. Lee's letters to his siblings at the Buffalo History Museum. These were brothers and sister writing to one another nearly 2 centuries ago in the midst of immense fear and anxiety as land companies attempted to remove the Seneca people from their homelands. Again and again, their letters contained a powerful truth. To lose the land was to cease to exist. For our ancestors, land was not a possession. The land does not belong to us. We belong to the land. It holds our burials, our medicines, our stories, and our future generations. When I read those letters, I thought of my own children, who are 7 generations after E. Lee. And I realized that the people writing those words were fighting not just for themselves. They were fighting so that our children, nearly 2 centuries later, would still have a home here in Western New York. They were fighting so that our family, our identity, and our relationship to this land would endure. E. Lee came of age during that same chapter of crisis. He watched land speculators push to remove the Seneca people from Buffalo Creek and Tonawanda, and he understood that survival required legal knowledge. As a young man, he mastered English, studied law in Ellicottville, and gained the training needed to advocate for our people. He was ready, he was prepared, and he was brilliant. But in 1847, he was denied admission to the bar, not because he lacked ability, but because he was Native and not considered a United States citizen. That denial was rooted in discrimination, and because of it, the Tonawanda Senecas had to rely on outside counsel to defend the very land our ancestors said they could not afford to lose. Today, nearly 180 years later, we correct that injustice. We acknowledge that the failure was never his, it was the law itself. This admission recognizes the truth that Indigenous people are capable, are prepared, and are still burdened by systems designed to exclude. And yet, even without a license, E. Lee never stopped serving his people. His legal reasoning and advocacy contributed directly to the Tonawanda Senecas retaining their territory. The land he helped protect remains Tonawanda territory today. His work safeguarded the future, including the future of the next 7 generations. This moment is deeply personal for our family. It allows E. Lee to rest in the knowledge that he did his best, and that his best changed the course of our history. His identity should never have been questioned. His ability should never have been dismissed. and his commitment to his homeland should never again be overshadowed by the discrimination that attempted to silence him. When I look at my children, 7 generations after Ely, I see the future that our ancestors fought for. I see the reason they resisted removal. I see the proof that their struggle was not in vain. And I see why this posthumous admission is not only a historical correction, it is an affirmation of their resilience and a continuation of their legacy. Before I close, I also want to acknowledge my father, Al Parker. He spent his life preserving the stories of our people, honoring the legacy of Ely and other Parker ancestors who fought so fiercely for this land. I know he would be proud of this moment, proud to see Ely recognized, proud to see justice named, and proud to know that the resiliency of our ancestors still lives on in their descendants. And in many ways, today is also an act of healing for our family, for our community, and for the generations who carried the weight of this injustice. Restoring Ely to his rightful place helps restore something in all of us. On behalf of my family, I offer my deepest gratitude to Judge Montour, Judge Browning, Lee Redeye, and all those who were part of bringing this historic moment into being. Yahweh, for honoring his life, for acknowledging the injustice he endured, and for ensuring that his name now stands in its rightful place, not only for history, but for the generations to come.
Thank you. Last night at the Historical Society, if you were there, you couldn't help but leave with a real respect for what Al Parker has done to get us here today. He was described as a force of nature. And Ms. Leonard, I think your dad would be very proud of you today. Thank you. Please, next, join me in welcoming the Honorable John G. Browning, retired Justice of Texas 5th District Court of Appeals and distinguished jurist in residence at Faulkner University, who was also instrumental in compiling the application for Mr. Parker's admission to the New York State Bar. Judge Browning.
Presiding Justice Whalen, members of the court, distinguished members of the judiciary, and honored members of the Parker family, and our many honored guests. It's a singular privilege to be here today for this ceremony recognizing Ely S. Parker with posthumous admission to the New York State Bar. It's also rather fitting that this ceremony takes place only a few days after Veterans Day, for Ely Parker was indeed, as one biographer described, a warrior in 2 camps. He was a fierce champion of his Tonawanda Seneca Nation as they waged a decades-long legal struggle to retain their ancestral homeland. A struggle that culminated in victories before the United States Supreme Court in 1857 and 1858. But Ely Parker was also an American patriot, initially rejected in his offers to fight for the Union. When the Civil War broke out, he was rebuffed initially, but his friendship with Ulysses S. Grant enabled him to receive a commission and serve as a trusted member of Grant's staff, rising to become America's first Native American to earn the rank of general by the war's end. Almost 170 years later, a shared history of service in our armed forces was something that I bonded over with the late Al Parker, direct descendant of Ely Parker and proud United States Marine. Union Army General is just one of the titles earned by Ely Parker, along with those of Sachem of the Seneca, Civil Engineer, Diplomat, and first Native American to lead the Bureau of Indian Affairs. But one title was denied to him was that of lawyer. Born in 1828, Ely Parker was educated in white schools. Although he encountered both verbal taunts and physical attacks, Parker persevered and excelled in his studies, particularly in debate and oratory. And at a time when the standards for becoming a lawyer in New York and the rest of the United States were fairly lax, Parker met or exceeded all of these key requirements. There was no written bar exam in New York until 1895. I know some of my law students probably wish for a time machine to travel back to the easier days, but that's not happening. There was no oversight by the New York Supreme Court until 1858. In the late 1840s, when Ely Parker was reading the law and studying to become a lawyer, one simply had to be a male of at least 21 years of age, of good moral character, whatever that might be interpreted as, who possessed the requisite learning as gleaned from reading the law under the tutelage of older lawyers during an apprenticeship. From 1847 to 1849, Ely Parker served such an apprenticeship with the Ellicottville law firm of Angel and Rice, lawyers William P. Angel and Addison Rice, where, and I can tell you this from poring over multitudes of correspondence, he impressed his mentors. One letter in particular wanted him back so badly, they said, come, give a response now before you go to bed. We've got to know tonight. We welcome you back with open arms. But there was one element that Parker could not satisfy, that of citizenship, since as a Native American, he was not considered a United States citizen. This injustice that we remedy today was one that was actually pointed out during Parker's lifetime in an 1886 Harper's New Monthly article, highlighting Ely Parker's stellar achievements in various fields and how he shouldn't have been excluded simply because he was not white. The magazine's article's author wrote that judicial dignity would not be impaired by admitting Parker to the bar. Now, Ely Parker, rebuffed in his efforts to become a lawyer, would go on to distinguish himself as a civil engineer who worked on the Erie Canal and projects all over the country. It was while working on one such project, a Treasury Customs House in Galena, Illinois, that he first became friends with Ulysses S. Grant. Yet Ely Parker's legal training and his insights, just as much as his civil engineering background, would prove vital throughout his relationship with General Grant and his life. Most importantly, he assisted John H. Martindale, the Tonawanda Seneca's white attorney, in the long, arduous legal battles over the Tonawanda Seneca's right to remain in their ancestral New York lands. Free from the threat of removal, free from the incursion from white land developers. These struggles culminated in two rare, and believe me when I say that adjective, rare, Native American victories before the United States Supreme Court, the 1857 decision of Fellows versus Blacksmith, and the 1858 decision in New York ex rel. Cutler versus Dibble. Ely Parker also famously put his legal training to use at Appomattox. When Confederate General Robert E. Lee surrendered to end the war, General Grant turned to the trained lawyer on his staff, Ely Parker, to draft the Articles of Surrender. One might ask the understandable question, why now? What took so long? Well, to that I reply, it's never too late to do the right thing. We have seen posthumous pardons and other recognition in recent years, from the Scottsboro Boys in Alabama to Homer Plessy in Louisiana. In the 21st century, we have witnessed the posthumous bar admissions of 7 Asian American and Black American aspiring attorneys from the 19th and early 20th centuries who were denied admission to the legal profession because of the color of their skin. The highest courts in Washington State, California, Pennsylvania, Texas, and Maryland have all righted such past wrongs. In 2019, this court posthumously admitted William Herbert Johnson, the first Black graduate of Syracuse Law School in 1903. Ely Parker's posthumous admission to the New York bar today is only the 8th such admission in United States legal history. It is the first involving a Native American. It should not be the last. The gates to the legal profession were closed to people of color for far too long. In 1844, Macon Bowling Allen became the first Black American admitted to the practice of law. Yet the first time he sought admission that year in Maine, he was rejected because he was not considered a citizen. Even today, of the more than 1.3 million practicing attorneys in the United States, only about 0.5% are Native American. As the California Supreme Court observed 10 years ago during another posthumous bar admission, the discriminatory exclusion of someone like Ely Parker is not just a blow to those who aspire to become a lawyer only to have their dream deferred on account of their race. It is also a loss to our communities and to society as a whole, which denied itself the full talents of its people and the important benefits of a diverse legal profession. Today, the court's action, I would put it to you, is not merely symbolic. It rights a historic wrong, and it demonstrates that the justice has no expiration date. I thank the court for taking this action. Thank you.
Next, I'm truly honored to introduce the President of the Seneca Nation of Indians, J. Conrad Seneca.
Noiscano. Hope everyone is well. It's a great honor to be here today. Thinking about this moment and everything building up to it, many thanks to everyone who was involved with this process in regards to righting this injustice after all these many years. Our Deputy Counsel at Seneca Nation, Lee Red-Eye, got to recognize him. Very proud of him and his efforts in regards to working with the family and the judges in regards to moving this forward. Really proud, Ely. Appreciate all your work. Thank you. It was great. When I think of Ely Parker, I think he would be awesome for him to be around in today's world, because we're dealing with many of the same things that he did with. We're fighters, we're survivors, we're activists. We wear many hats in our nations and in our communities and as leadership. I think where he was not accepted to the bar, I know many of our people believe we're lawyers because we have to be sometime, right? And so whether we have a degree or not, our people I've seen over the course of time and my experience, very educated, very well spoken, know their rights, know their treaties, know what it means to be a sovereign nation, to be able to articulate that in a fashion that compares to any schooled lawyer that's went through any law school or became a lawyer. And so, I want to recognize all our lawyers, just like Ely Parker out there, that were not accepted to a bar, but then again practiced in law in defense of our rights as Native people, as a Haudenosaunee people, and appreciate everybody's efforts and activism and everything they do. For me, it's been a long road in my career in regards to life here and the government, growing up on territory just down the road from here. Learning over the course of time what it means to be a Seneca, to be proud to be a Native, proud to be Seneca, and represent that each and every day of my life. I was fortunate. I look at the young folks in the room. I look at Lee's young boy over here. That was me back in the 60s. as my dad was speaking at a podium. Yeah. You know, and so that brings back great memories to me. And I think you're going to look down the road and you're going to be, I know you're proud today. You're going to look back at that. It's going to be very meaningful to you to be here in this room today. And I appreciate you being here. So, you know, it brings back great memories to me because I was fortunate enough to be able to be in those positions, to be in these kind of rooms, to learn, to know what it means to be a defender of our rights and sovereignty and protect our treaties. So much appreciation to Eli. Ely, I know he's looking down on us and he's thankful and grateful, I think, and proud of all of this coming together today. And so this is a historic day. This is a day that we can remember in our history of Native people, of Seneca people. And I think it's an opportunity for all our Seneca people to come together and to continue to work on a brighter and better future for all of our Seneca people and all Native people. So Nyaway, it's an honor to be here. I appreciate it. Today's a historic day. Write it down, November 14th, 2025. Nyaway.
Thank you, President Seneca. Before I call the next speaker, I do want to recognize that we've been joined by Family Court Judge Sharon Lavallo, no doubt coming right off the bench and couldn't get here earlier because of her busy schedule. We also, I see in the back, former Erie County District Attorney John Flynn is here. Thank you, John, for being here. And the Commissioner of the Board of Elections and the Erie County Democratic Chairman, Jeremy Zellner, has also joined us to be with us today. Thank you for being here. Next, please join me in welcoming Attorney Joe Heath, General Counsel of the Onondaga Nation. Mr. Heath.
It's a special honor for me to be here today, and I have a great appreciation to the justices of the Fourth Department, and particularly Justice Montour, for this historic healing event, healing for the Parker family, for the Seneca Nation, and for the entire Haudenosaunee Confederacy. I've been fortunate to be the General Counsel for the Onondaga Nation for many decades. And I'm in my 51st year of practicing law. I may get it right one of these days. It started here, across the street in Eagle Street. And as I was driving here today, I remembered the historic Attica criminal trials in this building, 1974, 1975. And the reason that I bring that up today is because the most targeted defendant in that shameful prosecution was a young Mohawk man named John Hill, Sacagawea. And in this courthouse, the attempt by Governor Rockefeller to cover up his misdeeds at Attica began to unravel. And so this courthouse has a very significant civil rights history. Today is a small step towards healing one of the innumerable historic harms against Indigenous people by the state of New York. And we would not be here today if we didn't take the first step, which was acknowledging the historic harms and facts, not denying them, not trying to cover them up, admitting some of the history of colonialism, of forced removals, of boarding schools. We could spend a day before I finish that list. And so what this event shows is that in order to reach healing, we need to admit historic pasts. And so it's we also need to think about other historic problems that New York has engaged in and created over the last 240 years, because we need much more healing. The primary harm by New York was the illegal taking of 99% of the Haudenosaunee lands. Two courts in the Northern District held historic hearings in both the Oneida and the Cayuga land claims. And at the conclusion of both of those hearings, there were clear rulings that New York knowingly violated federal law when it took all of the homelands. They violated the Constitution, the Trade and Intercourse Act, and the 3 treaties that the Haudenosaunee hold with the United States. And we need to heal the horrendous harms of those illegal takings. We've seen over the decades that the courts have not done a very good job with that. They've done a shameful job with that. As I said before, there are rulings that there were violations of the Constitution and the law, and then a few years later, the Supreme Court rules that doesn't matter. We've made up a new defense that only applies to indigenous land claims. And they called it equity. Equity. That's not the kind of equity that the Haudenosaunee understand. And so we've seen that the courts can't heal that historic harm. And so I call on, and the Onondagas call on, the state of New York and the lesser governments to follow a principle of the great law of peace, to sit down together, to listen to each other respectfully, and come up with a solution that benefits all the parties and benefits the future generations yet to come. Land needs to be returned to the Haudenosaunee under their jurisdiction and their stewardship, so that they can carry out their responsibilities to be stewards of this land, which was pristine and life-supporting prior to colonization. And so we should build on this historic healing today and continue to work together to admit the historic harms and to come together as one. Thank you.
Next, please join me in welcoming Attorney Lee Red-Eye, Deputy Counsel of the Seneca Nation of Indians.
Good morning, honorable judges of the 4th Department. My name is Lee M. Red-Eye, and I stand before you today in support of the application for posthumous admission, nunc pro tunc, of Ely Samuel Parker. May it please the court. Before I begin, I just want to recognize my family in the audience and thank them for supporting me. My wife, my daughter Jayla, my son Maxwell, thank you for being here. Also, I think my mother is watching out there virtually, so it means a lot. And this is a historic day, as the people who spoke before me have recognized. Although the filings that bring us here were submitted by myself and the Honorable John G. Browning, we did not forge this path alone. We were brought here by the relentless efforts of many who came before us, chief among them, the Parker family. Today is Ely's triumph, but it is also all of ours too. For we stand victorious over the prejudice of the past. We must honor Ely, but we must also honor Al, Melissa, and the entire Parker family. Today is also a day for all of Indian country to rejoice. It will shine for all time like a beacon of hope, proclaiming to every Native person that the legal system can indeed deliver on its lofty promise of justice for all. And justice may be blind, but today it sees us. As this court prepares to posthumously admit a Native American to the bar for the first time in the history of the United States, we now stand on the precipice of history. Behind us stretches a shadowed past, stained by prejudice, ignorance, and unrepentant inequity. But ahead, a glorious new era unfolds, unblemished and built upon a foundation of compassion, understanding, and unyielding justice. And we do not simply bear witness to this transformation. All of us here today shall be the architects of this new age. The 1800s were a time of great upheaval for the Seneca people. Ely was born into this storm of Seneca turmoil in 1828, nearly half a century after the Sullivan Campaign ravaged the Haudenosaunee civilization. By the age of 10, he witnessed the fraudulent 1838 Buffalo Creek Treaty that stripped away all Seneca lands in the state of New York. At 14, he saw the 1842 Compromise Treaty return the Cattaraugus and Allegheny reservations or territories, but at the devastating cost of his own home, the Tonawanda Territory. Despite these tragedies, Ely never lost hope. He refused to be merely a passive spectator during those tumultuous times. He was a mutual combatant, fighting for his lands and for his people. And between 1856 and 1858, Ely had quite a run. Despite not being admitted to practice law, Ely helped John Martindale win 2 cases at the United States Supreme Court. The duo's first victory was Fellows v. Blacksmith in 1856, which protected the right of the Tonawanda Senecas to remain in their ancient occupation on the Tonawanda Territory. After that case in 1857, through Ely's efforts and through the efforts of many others lost to history, Ely witnessed the return of the Tonawanda Territory, his home. And in 1858, just 2 years after Fellows v. Blacksmith, Parker's and Martindale's efforts again produced a successful result at the High Court in Ex Rel. Cutler v. Dibble, which upheld a state law that permitted the removal of non-Indian intruders residing or settling in Indian country. 167 years later, that law is still being invoked by Native nations to protect their territories and their people from invaders. Ely's efforts, all these years later, continue to pay dividends. The speakers before me have masterfully illuminated why Ely S. Parker deserves this posthumous admission to the New York State Bar. He read the law diligently with the firm of Angel and Rice from 1847 to 1849, as was the custom of his day. And through the vivid recounting of his extraordinary achievements from his service in the Civil War to his role as the first Native American Commissioner of Indian Affairs, his character and fitness to practice law appear as self-evident. There is nothing left to debate. Ely Parker is certainly worthy of this posthumous admission. So I will devote the balance of my time today not to repeat what has already been said, but to etching into the record one Seneca's perspective on the meaning of this ceremony. After today, Ely's legacy will no longer appear as a mere footnote in the story of Ulysses S. Grant. From this moment forward, Ely's life will stand tall on its own merits, an example for all Native people aspiring to do great things. It is my hope that Ely's life will serve as a lesson for all Haudenosaunee people and for every Indigenous person that can hear my words. It teaches us that no matter the barrier, no limitation imposed by society, nothing can hold us back. Within each of us lies the ability to achieve the impossible. But no matter where we go, no matter what we accomplish, we must never forget our roots. We must remember where we come from. We must honor our people. We must honor our nations. For there is unbreakable strength in unity. There is unstoppable power in the collective. And I wish that I could declare that the battles Ely fought in his lifetime are relics of the past, but even now, in this so-called modern age, Indigenous people face a relentless onslaught from external forces determined to erase our way of life. We still battle intruders on our sacred lands. We still rage against the assaults on our sovereignty. And though we were the first stewards of this continent, we remain as unknown to the body politic as we were in 1492. And when those in power have been forced to examine our history and our status, they have cast us as existing in a state of pupillage, as wards in need of guardians. Yet, where we were once deemed diminished and dependent, we now stand proud and undaunted in the face of this adversity. The full force of history's mightiest nation arrayed against us was not enough to defeat our spirit. But we fight a siege war whose duration is without parallel. We must now sharpen our minds to defend our homelands and to protect our heritage. With every new Seneca attorney or native attorney who joins the bar, we gain a fierce warrior in our fight for survival. And today, we have gained many allies on the bench. Every native lawyer is a brother or sister in arms, charging into the war against our oppression. And we must refuse to let the embers of our sovereignty grow cold and turn to ash. Instead, we must stoke them into a roaring blaze, a fire that warms and empowers every nation across this vast continent. We need every soldier and every ally we can muster, for the Indian wars have never ended. They have merely evolved, grown more insidious. Gone are the overt military campaigns and bloody skirmishes on open fields. Today, the courtroom is our battleground. The report of rifles has given way to the sharp thud of filed documents. Battle cries have been replaced by oral arguments. But let us not be deceived by these changes in tactics. The stakes are as dire as ever. Native nations and Native people continue to fight for our very existence, for our sovereignty, our sacred ways of life, and our right to endure as a distinct and independent people. The history of relations between Native nations and the states, between Native nations and the federal government, drips with shame, state aggression, driven by an insatiable lust for our lands and control over our people. It is said that the wheels of justice grind slow, and too many aggrieved souls have left this world without ever glimpsing the justice they deserved, denied their rightful relief. Ely was one, Al was another, and sadly, countless others. But today, at least, the Parker family will no longer see justice delayed. They will see justice delivered. If there is one lesson to be learned from this history, it is that Ely's journey reminds us, do not be afraid to follow the path that the Creator has set before you, even if in that moment you are not wanted there. Push forward with courage, with conviction, for in so doing, you honor not only yourself, but all who came before you and all who will follow you. From this day forward, we will honor Ely Samuel Parker, not as a victim of history, but as its victor. Let this ceremony move us forward together to a place where the legal system is not satisfied simply by giving the appearance of justice, but instead demands that true justice prevail. Let our future be one where Native voices echo in every hall of power across the United States. And always remember, we are resilient, we are sovereign, and together we are unbreakable. Thank you.
New York State courts and the court system is, as most court systems, a very tiered institution. And unusually in New York, the trial level court is referred to as the Supreme Court. If you take an appeal from Supreme Court, you go to an appellate division court. That's what we are. We hear arguments on appeal from the trial court. We're an intermediate appellate court. The next court and the last court, the court of last resort, is the Court of Appeals. It's a 7-person court. And on the 7-person court, we have a chief judge. The chief judge presides over that court, but the chief judge also presides over the administration of the entire state of New York court system. It's a very busy, important job for our court system, and he's an exceptional leader. And so we are going to hear a virtual message from that chief judge. I was speaking with him yesterday, and he wanted me to explain that he's not well. He was planning on traveling here and being with us in person, and he travels the state extensively. And I was looking forward to having him here because he is such an exciting person to be with. You'll get that, I think, from the video. But in any event, he wishes he could be here. He's unable to be here, but we'll play a video. So, from the Chief Judge of the New York State Courts, the Honorable Rowan Wilson. He's a bit of a history buff, and his talk, he wants to highlight Ely Parker's role as a military secretary to then General Ulysses Grant during the Civil War. Can we play the video, Mike?
Good morning. It is with a mixture of joy and sadness that I welcome you to the bar admission ceremony for Brigadier General Ely S. Parker. This momentous occasion is truly joyous because we are finally admitting to the practice of law a truly exceptional person denied that right solely because of his national origin, ironically, his belonging to this land as a member of its indigenous population. I'd like to thank Justice Mark Montour as well as the myriad others who made today's event possible. Special thanks to Professor John Browning from Texas, who more than 3 years ago started the process to have Mr. Parker admitted to the New York bar. Lee Redeye, the attorney for the Seneca Nation, who, along with Professor Browning, worked diligently on preparing the petitions. And also to Melissa Parker Leonard, who, before the death of her father, Al Parker, promised him that she would see this through. It was her father, a direct descendant of Ely Parker, who, during his life, first sought to see Mr. Parker's posthumous admission to the bar. I am truly disappointed that I cannot join you in Buffalo today, and it is terribly sad that this ceremony did not take place during Brigadier General Parker's lifetime. How, you might ask, did Hasanoanda, a Seneca boy born in 1828, who later, as the lawyer Ely Parker, come to be a brigadier general in the Union Army? The tale is almost beyond belief, amazing both for the exceptionalism of the man and for the injustice heaped upon him. In the 1840s, as Mr. Parker began his legal practice, several unjust laws governed American society. Most incredibly, Native Americans were denied United States citizenship. Despite the grave affront of being rejected as a citizen of the United States and ineligible for admission to the bar of the state of New York, Mr. Parker chose to use his extraordinary talents, legal and otherwise, to serve the United States. Following an example set by his father, who fought for the United States in the War of 1812, Mr. Parker was commissioned into the Army in 1863, the midpoint of the American Civil War. Having not only practiced law, but also studied civil engineering at RPI, Mr. Parker first became the chief engineer for the 7th Division. He went on to serve under Major General and future President Ulysses S. Grant as his adjutant, a position of great esteem and responsibility as the right-hand man of the commanding officer who assists with all aspects of unit administration. Mr. Parker next rose to the rank of lieutenant colonel and served as Grant's military secretary, drafting important pieces of Grant's correspondence. On April 9, 1865, Confederate General Robert E. Lee surrendered to General Grant at the Appomattox Courthouse in Virginia, which remains the most significant event in all of United States history. Lieutenant Colonel Parker, who was one of the few men present at Lee's surrender, drafted the official terms of surrender, signed by Lee and Grant, ensuring the survival of the American Union. As Lieutenant Colonel Parker later recounted, Mr. Lee stared at me for a moment. He extended his hand and said, "I am glad to see one real American here." I shook his hand and said, "We are all Americans." That day, Parker was conferred the rank of Brigadier General, a rank earned only through exceptional service. How could a man who was shunned by the nation that invaded his lands and destroyed his civilization fight for the Union? How could he then, at the moment of triumph, offer reconciliation and inclusion to the vanquished foe? I believe it comes from a nobility of spirit rarely seen. Parker chose a side, though flawed, and devoted all his efforts to it, because that side promised change, promised equality, promised liberty, whereas the other side promised stagnation, subjugation, and slavery. His immediate offer of reconciliation must have been made despite his knowledge that the winning side would not soon, perhaps not for many centuries thereafter, deliver on its lofty principles, but that the only way forward was to work even, or maybe especially, with one's enemies towards those principles. There are many lessons for us and our times embedded within the story of his life. Another with Hasanoanda's nobility of spirit, the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., wrote from the Birmingham jail, "Any law that uplifts human personality is just. Any law that degrades human personality is unjust." Although admission to the bar of the state of New York is not a law, it has legal effect. Today, by admitting Brigadier General Eli S. Parker, formerly known as Hasanoanda, to the bar of our state, we uplift human personality in a small measure and vindicate his faith that someday this nation will finally live up to the noble aspirations it has yet to realize fully. Each generation inherits both the wisdom and the failures of its predecessors, and it is our duty to follow in Brigadier General Parker's footsteps, to devote our lives to just causes, so that we might bring our nation just a bit closer to fulfilling its founding promise of equality, inclusivity, and liberty and justice for all. Thanks to all who made this day happen, as well as to all of you who will keep it in your hearts and go forward, renewed in your faith in this nation's promise and promises. Thank you.
I would now like to invite my colleague, Justice Craig Hanna, to the podium for a proclamation from the Franklin H. Williams Commission. This proclamation is signed by co-chair of the Franklin H. Williams Commission, the Honorable Shirley Troutman, who is, of course, currently an associate judge on the Court of Appeals and was, I think even more importantly, a former member of our bench. Judge Hanna.
Thank you. To my presiding justice, Gerald Whalen, to Mark Montour, Justice Lindley, Justice Ogden, Justice Oconte, and my other colleagues of the bench, to President Seneca, to the wonderful staff of the 8th Judicial District and the 4th Department, one of the greatest group of staffs in the world, to the relatives and friends who traveled from near and far to be here on behalf of Ely Parker. Also to the Haudenosaunee people, the people of the First Nations, the fathers and mothers of democracy and justice, and here what we call North America. To the chiefs and the tribal elders, we welcome you here. To the matriarchs and the mothers who forbear much and forgive much, who will never forget the greatness of your people, and who are the first teachers of the enduring legacy of the greatness of your people, we honor you. Good morning, I'm Craig Hanna, and I'm here on behalf of the Franklin H. Williams Commission, and in particularly on behalf of Justice Shirley Troutman, Associate Judge of the Court of Appeals. She was unable to make it today because of some pressing duties, but she wanted me to extend the gratitude and the honor to be a part of your celebration today. But most importantly, she wanted to apologize for not being here with you today. Like I said, indeed, it is an honor to be here today, but I'll be remiss if I didn't start off by quoting Justice Montour, and please forgive my lazy tongue if I don't say this correctly. I want to thank Hananawani, the creator, the redeemer, the great spirit, the grand architect of the earth and the universe for allowing all of us be here today to honor Mr. Ely Parker. My goal here is to read this proclamation, but it's not my goal to give you worldly evidence that I can read, but it's to show you that we want to honor the significance of the day. So on behalf of everyone and the Franklin H. Williams Commission, I will read a few stanzas to show you the great work that was done by Mr. Ely Parker. And we have a very nice sealed copy too for the family to take home with them. Whereas the Franklin H. Williams Commission, a commission of the New York State, which is a statewide commission composed of judges, attorneys, and court administrators appointed by the Chief Judge of the State of New York, who seeks to make the court system more responsive to people of color and to improve the diversity in the legal profession and the court systems, and whose co-chairs are the Honorable Shirley Troutman, Associate Judge of the Court of Appeals, and the Honorable Troy Weber, Associate Justice of the Appellate Division, First Department. And whereas the Williams Commission honors the life and legacy of Ely Parker for his courage, contribution, and lifelong pursuits of justice, having served defense and liberty and the rule of law in both the military service and public life, paving the way for equality and fairness here. And whereas Ely Parker, born with the native name Haudenosaunee in 1828 on the Tonawanda Reservation in Indian Falls, where the Tonawanda Seneca Nation, and was raised in the tradition of both the League of Haudenosaunee and as a Baptist mission school. Guided by his father, William Parker, a Seneca chief and a veteran of the War of 1812, and who instilled in him the lifelong respect for leadership, duty, and service to his nation. And whereas fluent in both English and Seneca, Parker demonstrated clearly intellect and exceptional aptitude working in a law firm in Ellicottville to develop his legal skills. And whereas, on the application of the New York State Court of Appeals, Ely Parker has been approved to be possibly admitted to New York State Bar of the State of New York. And whereas the Fourth Department, Appellate Division, finding exemplary service and high ideals of leadership, intelligence, and integrity, and has approved his admission to the New York State Appellate Division, Fourth Department. Now, therefore, be resolved that the Franklin H. Williams Commission celebrates the extraordinary accomplishments of Ely S. Parker, honoring his pioneering spirit, tireless pursuits of justice in the face of adversity, lifelong dedication for the service of others. Now be it further resolved that the Commission acknowledges and commemorates this historic day and the life and legacy of an inspiration to all who strive for fairness, equality, and justice. This day, November 14th, 2025, signed by the Honorable Shirley Troutman and the Honorable Troy Weber. Congratulations.
Thank you, Justice Hanna. Let me first, before I call the next speaker, let me first thank, we sit in a ceremonial courtroom in Buffalo, in Erie County, of course. It's within the 8th Judicial District, and the 8th Judicial District has an administrative judge who works just through these doors here, and it's Administrative Judge Amy Martocci. Judge Martocci couldn't be with us today. She had pressing work out of town, and so she extends her congratulations to the family and to all those present. Prior, a couple, we'll call it maybe a decade or so ago, there was another administrative judge here by the name of James B. Kane. And Judge Kane was administrative judge for many, many years, and he was a beloved figure by all those that worked with him, both lawyers, judges, and especially court staff. And it's interesting that I'm now going to call forward, invite forward, the niece of Judge James B. Kane, Bonnie Kane Lockwood, South Buffalo's favorite citizen, and Western New York Regional Director for the Governor's Office, to deliver a proclamation on behalf of Governor Kathleen Hochul.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Judge Whalen. Our family goes back so many years, and my Uncle Jim, or we used to call him Uncle Judge, served with distinction and pride to be a part of the legal system, but always knowing and understanding it was always a work in progress. As we stand here today, I am humbled to be among you, representing the Governor of the State of New York, Kathy Hochul, to be among the distinguished jurists and honored members of Ely Parker's descendants and the distinguished tribal members. But I do bring greetings and gratitude from our governor to all who joined, to all who are companions on this journey leading to this historic occasion. And I was also humbled last night to be in the audience at the History Museum to a marvelous panel discussion where I learned and listened so much more. The passion, the persistence, the research, the dedication, the determination that it took to get to this day, this public recognition, to correct this longstanding injustice. And it was made clear last night, and I don't have to tell you in this room, but it was made clear last night what a force of nature Al Parker was. And that force lives on in so many, but especially in his proud and beautiful daughter, Melissa Parker Leonard. Also a proud daughter of Mount Mercy Academy. I said, finally, a graduate of Mount Mercy that they can be proud of, Melissa Parker Leonard. But as a mother, as a grandmother, as is the governor of the state of New York, it is especially important to recognize the work of Melissa in carrying on that tradition. You are an educator, an inspiration, a healer, a truth teller. And it is an honor to present this special citation from the governor of the state of New York in recognition of the life, the contributions, and the force of nature that Ely Parker was. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Bonnie. My wife was also a graduate of Mercy, and we've got a court reporter here. So in order to correct the record and in order for me to get back into the House, there have been many great graduates of Mercy Hospital. Thanks, Bonnie. Finally, Justice Montour will deliver a proclamation on behalf of Chief Judge Wilson.
Before I read this, and I'm very honored to present this to the family. Justice Whalen mentioned that I am the first Native American ever to be elected to a state-level judicial position in the state of New York. Thank you, but I'm honored, I'm humbled to have this position. And it comes with a responsibility, a significant responsibility. You've heard from our speakers the struggles, not only of Ely Parker, but the struggles of Native people in general. And many are here today, and I recognize you all. I know that the council members are here from the Seneca Nation. I see Rob Porter here, former president. Rob was kind enough to make numerous phone calls to me during the time I was practicing as an attorney to represent members of the Seneca Nation, always on a pro bono basis. You know, it would be a phone call. Mark, how you doing? It's pretty good. I have someone if you could help us out, but you know, we can't pay you. You're not going to get any money, but please do so. But again, it was an opportunity for me to give something back to my people. You know, it's something my father always tried to instill upon us, was that do something for others who are less fortunate. Make sure that you try and live your life that way. And that's something that I've attempted to do. I'm honored today, a little form, this person here who's here today. She helps daily with the struggles that Natives experience. And recognition is so difficult. People many times can't understand. What are you talking about? You're sovereign, you know, you're right down the road, you know, the thruway runs right through your property. You know, I get my gas there. You know, what do you mean sovereign? And it's unfortunate that it's necessary to educate people on that. And the education is ongoing. And I know when we work with Heather and Amy, and we go to the various nations and we work with trying to educate the judges and the court staff on the Indian Child Welfare Act and why it came about and why it's so important and why it needs to be continued, because our heritage is important, our children are important, our generations are important, because we will continue to live on. So it's necessary that we do that. And I see Michael Martin here. Michael Martin's the Executive Director of Native American Community Services, which provides services to Natives living off the territories. A struggle, not only for getting those opportunities available, but getting the funding to continue so we can provide those benefits and services. And to everyone here today, it means a lot to me. I mean, we as a team have put a lot of work into this. And there's been a lot of anxiety involved in this. You can ask my assistant Carrie or Mackenzie if she's here. And she's been terrific. She's been phenomenal with being able to put everything together. So it was a lot of people bringing this together, but it was so important that we were able to do that, because it's been too long. And I myself have to admit that I wasn't unaware of the entire life of Ely Parker. You know, and there's so much more that you don't know. I mean, there's the boarding schools that people don't know about. You know, and I talk to friends sometimes. What are you talking about? You know, when did that happen? It stopped in the 70s. And the trauma that continues based upon the removal of those children from those families, and how it's continuing to be experienced in ways that people can't imagine. In one way, I learned last night from a speaker, and I've tried to learn the language. And I apologize today for fumbling a few times. I say it every day. Every morning I say it, you know, and I'm like, come on. And how can I forget that one stanza, because they're all so important. Because we take for granted the simple things, the people, the trees, the water. Water's life, and how can we not recognize that and take that for granted? It's to me, and I did not grow up with my heritage. I've never had the opportunity to speak to my father during his life, but he, as a child and born in 25, was when the boarding schools were predominant and prevalent. And whether he hid that or as my grandparents hid that, which many did to avoid the prospect of their children being taken from them and forced into these schools, I can only surmise that that's what my dad did and how he grew. I'm honored today to give this proclamation to the Parker family. I am the chairman of the New York Tribal Courts Committee. It is a standing committee of the Chief Judge, one of the standing committees that he has, one of the many. And we have a small group of people. Mackenzie is my assistant. She's an individual who helps me, and I have her 2 days a week, thanks to the graciousness of the Office of Court Administration staff people that we have some help. But without Mackenzie, we couldn't do this program today or other programs as well. Justice Gonzalez is a tireless advocate of the Tribal Courts Committee, and I'm so grateful that she's available and helps us. Heather, again, is someone, Amy, I don't know if she's here today, that they're individuals who have in their heart, because that's what it takes to fight the struggle, and because we don't have a lot of resources available to us, so it's important that we have that. But I'm honored to give this proclamation. One point I wanted to, emphasis I want to point again before I read that. Ely Parker, again, I would have to say that I've heard a few things about him here and there and wanted to know more. So I picked up a book, Warrior in Two Camps, by William H. Armstrong. I've read it once, reading it again, and many of the comments that were made about Ely's life and who Ely was and the struggles that he had are on this book. But I know his son is here today. Lester Armstrong is in the corner. Very honored that he would venture from Cleveland, is that right? And he was the last night at the panel discussion as well. So I want to recognize Mr. Armstrong, but also the book. The book's great. If you want to learn more about Ely Parker, I suggest it, and it's an easy read, and I don't really, right now I read it before I go to bed, and it takes me a couple pages, and I'm sleeping, but not that it puts me to sleep, it's just that well, maybe they have that impression. It's very good, it's very informative, but it does let you learn a lot. I'll just read a few stanzas. I know as Judge Hanna did, and thank you, Judge Hanna, for your comments. It was, I was once a member of the Franklin Williams Commission, but the work is just tireless too, and I do a lot of reading in my new job, so I don't have time sometimes to do a lot of that reading. Whereas despite this injustice barrier, Parker dedicated his life to public service. He became a civil engineer, contributing in projects such as the Erie Canal, and worked alongside Attorney John Martindale to defend the Tonawanda Seneca's ancestral lands, achieving 2 landmark victories before the United States Supreme Court. To me, I wasn't aware of that, and walk away with anything today. The fact that he assisted in that, even though he was not an admitted attorney, he knew that he continued to fight for the land rights of the Tonawanda Senecas, and that one way he could do so was to be an individual who assisted John Martindale in pursuing this and obtaining those decisions before the Supreme Court. And whereas during the Civil War served with distinction as a captain and engineer in the Union Army, he became a trusted aide to General Ulysses S. Grant, was promoted to the rank of colonel, and drafted the terms of surrender signed by General Robert E. Lee at Appomattox Courthouse. He later became the first Native American appointed Commissioner of Indian Affairs. Before I started working on this, I couldn't pronounce Appomattox. It's just like, some of the work we've done. Throughout his life, Ely S. Parker demonstrated the legal acumen, integrity, and commitment to justice that exemplify the highest ideals of the legal profession. His exclusion from the bar was a consequence of outdated and unjust rules, not a reflection of his merits or qualifications. Therefore, be it resolved that the Honorable Rowan D. Wilson, Chief Judge of the State of New York, recognizes and honors Ely S. Parker for his remarkable contributions to the Seneca people and to the United States, his pioneering role in the history of our state and nation, and the enduring inspiration he provides to future generations. Before I conclude my comments, you may wonder, hey, Mark, why? You got a nice suit. But how come you're not wearing your robe like others do? And what I connected, and many connect, the black robe with the priests from the boarding schools and the horrific events that took place with those children, whether taken from their families, their haircut, their religion, their customs, they couldn't practice the language. So many suffered. Food, medicine wasn't really generally supplied. Many died, many perished. So from the time I became a judge in '96, a town judge, I didn't wear a robe. And when I was elected to the Supreme Court, and in this courthouse, my courtroom was Part 4, I didn't wear a robe. And to me, that it was one way of me honoring those who have suffered in the boarding schools. Today, I do wear a robe. I had a discussion with the PJ when I came aboard and was given this opportunity. But if you do notice, I do wear a medicine wheel pin, still to signify my beliefs and my trust, in the Creator and what we have. So if you're wondering why I disrobe and robe, that's why. But it's not something that means special to me. So again, thank you all for being here. It's incredible. We had a lot of anxiety in bringing about this today, and many times knew it was going to be successful, and you all here today make it that part. So I invite you all to attend. We have our Native American celebration afterwards. We have a native lunch that's probably being prepared and should be out there now or soon thereafter. We have native tacos, cornbread, and strawberry drink. And we have native dancers coming in, and we have a native speaker, Jamie Jacobs, who will be speaking as well today. So hopefully you can take the opportunity to enjoy that as well. Again, thank you all, everyone, for being here. It means so much.
Normally, an applicant for admission to the bar in Buffalo is interviewed by volunteers on the Character and Fitness Committee for the 8th Judicial District. And if that committee is satisfied that the applicant for admission presents the moral character and fitness to practice law, it certifies that good character to our court on a document signed by the members of the committee, which is then permanently affixed to the application for admission. Because in this instance, the current Character and Fitness Committee for the 8th Judicial District could not interview Ely Parker, the court itself has reviewed the entire application, and all of the justices on the panel here today will affix their signature to that certification, which reads as follows. In the matter of the application of Ely Samuel Parker for admission to the bar, we, the undersigned members of this court, have examined the historical record of the above-named applicant for admission to the bar as to moral character and general fitness for admission as an attorney and counselor at law, and upon such examination and the foregoing papers and proofs submitted, we find and do hereby certify that the said applicant was, to the best of our judgment, of good moral character and generally fitted for the practice of law at the time he completed his study of the law in 1849 and thereafter. And we do hereby recommend said applicant for admission as an attorney and counselor at law of the state of New York, nunc pro tunc, that is, as of November 14th, 1849. That certification will now be signed by the members of this panel, will be attached to Mr. Parker's application for admission, and permanently retained in our court files. I now have that form, and I'm going to begin the signature process. Thank you. And now the clerk of our court, Ann Dillon Flynn, will read the certificate of admission for Mr. Parker, after which I will sign it, and Ms. Dillon Flynn will attest my signature. This certificate will also be retained permanently in Mr. Parker's admission file.
By the Appellate Division of the Supreme Court of the State of New York, in and for the 4th Judicial Department, to all to whom these presents shall come, greeting. Know ye that Ely Samuel Parker, known tribally as Hassan Nawanda, on whose behalf an application has been submitted for admission as an attorney and counselor at law in the courts of record of this state, and having been found qualified and a citizen of good moral character, and the Court of Appeals having issued an order waiving strict compliance by Ely Samuel Parker with its rules for admission of attorneys and counselors at law, that said Ely Samuel Parker, at the November 2025 term of this court, having been certified to this court by the New York State Board of Law Examiners for admission as an attorney and counselor at law, was duly admitted and licensed to practice as an attorney and counselor in all courts of this state, according to the laws of this state and the rules and orders of said courts, nunc pro tunc, as of November 14th, 1849. And Presiding Justice Whalen will come forth to sign under attestation the testimony whereof. I, Gerald J. Whalen, Presiding Justice of said court, have hereunto set my hand and caused the seal of said court to be hereunto affixed this 14th day of November in the year of our Lord 2025, in the 249th year of the independence of the United States of America.
You ready for me?
Ready.
I don't do anything without Ann's direct approval. Although this signed version goes to the court's permanent file, as a token of our esteem, we will be presenting the Parker family and certain dignitary members of the Seneca Nation of Indians with framed copies of the admission certificate with original signatures following the ceremony, so that it may serve as a reminder of Ely Parker's greatness and determination. Thank you all for coming to this historic event today. There will be a reception, as Justice Montour just outlined, immediately following, just right out in the hallway here, I believe. And we are officially adjourned. Thank you.